Welcome to a sports betting podcast from pregame.com for the week of October 15th, 2009. I'm your host, RJ Bell. I'm joined by Marco D'Angelo, 30 years in the business, Vegas runner, a genuine professional bettor here in Las Vegas. This is segment 5 of 5, Monday Night Football Breakdown. We've got Denver at San Diego. Let's start off. Give us a line report, Vegas runner.
All right. Not much movement in this one yet. It opened up San Diego -4 and 43.5. Still sitting on 4. Totals moved a little bit. It's now 44 across the board.
Okay, so now you've been doing a really special analysis at pregame.com online moves. And on Monday, late Monday, you put out a report on the key line moves, and you actually break it down from the bettor's perspective and from the sportsbook's perspective.
Correct.
And then Stan Sharp is doing a follow-up that is expounding on some of the stuff you talk about. So a lot of good stuff. You just go to pregame.com and click blogs. Okay, so Marco, this is one of the 5 games we're previewing this week. None of us have an official pick. On the other 3, we have 3 official picks out there. If you haven't gotten those yet, just go to pregame.tv and you can see all of our videos. Marco, what's the one key factor the bettor should be thinking about in this game?
Is Denver going to suffer a letdown after last week's big emotional win? That's the key to this game, in my opinion. They made a believer out of me, the hard way last week, but
I thought
so you like New England?
For real?
Yeah, that was our that we had to pay Mr. Vegas Runner over there in the last segment. But
all right, so let's look at this line for a minute, because one of the things we do a good job on, I think, here is try to think through the meaning of the line. So to me, if I'm saying, okay, 4.5, then my question is, they're saying San Diego is clearly the better team still.
And I think because this is a divisional rivalry, I think you have to look a little bit into the history. And San Diego has owned this team.
But let's be honest.
They've won 5 of the last 6. They've covered like 6 straight. So
it's a whole new Denver. I mean, Shanahan.
True. It is
whenever
a
you look at
different
trends,
Denver team, sure.
And here's a takeaway: is trends are only valid when the circumstances behind the trend are still there.
Sure.
Like things like a certain stadium might have a certain effect. If you tear the stadium down, there's a new stadium, and it used to be AstroTurf, now it's grass. It's a different scenario. This is a new Denver team, new quarterback, new coach. So, I mean, is there any validity to those trend?
No, I think it has it has to be influenced into the number.
But why? Because
because it's a Monday night game.
The Denver team from 3 years ago have anything to do with this?
Nothing,
thing?
Zero.
So why does that trend matter?
Because on Monday Night Football, I'd say 70% of the bettors don't look at the game the way you and I do.
So you're saying the public incorrectly is going to look like, here's a stat: San Diego is 21-8 ATS against the AFC West.
I hear that all the time.
So they're in division, they're very good. You're saying the public's going to be influenced by that, and we as the sharps are not.
Right, and I
or
think,
semi-sharp, I'll call myself.
And I think that's where we have an advantage always over the bookmakers, because they have to create a number that is based on public perception, that has so many other factors into it. And that's where we gain our edge.
So that's a good point, is if the lines maker were trying to make a true number, it'd be harder to beat. By a true number, making it where team A won 50% of the time, team B won 50%. They want to split the action for the most part. The public likes San Diego. Now don't forget, we talked about this with USC, is San Diego is close. You get there's a lot of San Diego fans here. In fact, it's the local TV market. You default to the San Diego game. So I think in Vegas, the line's going to be a little premium on San Diego.
Absolutely. For me, the one thing that I got to point out is San Diego's coming off a bye week.
Yep.
And in the earlier segment, we talked about it being a disadvantage for New Orleans coming off the bye week, because they went into the bye week with momentum, and it's a momentum stopper. When it's the other way and you go into the bye week off a horrible game.
Embarrassed on TV.
San Diego was down 28-0 to Pittsburgh.
On TV.
On national TV, the Sunday night game. Then they made a run of it late, but that team was embarrassed early on, and it took a fluke play to get them back in the game, that kick on that return. I look for San Diego. They're going to come out with focus. They're going to come out with a devised game plan.
Sounds like the same thing you said about Tennessee. And that's my point. You're right. That's the USA Today write-up. is this team, that's the first look, that's the sports writer's look. Is this San Diego team any good?
Well,
because they're 2.7 yards a rush.
Yeah, they're not running the ball this year. They're one of the worst in the league. Yeah, they're not running the ball.
And they're not going to run against Denver.
And they can't stop the run.
Denver hasn't allowed 100 yards on the ground to any opponent this year.
They're 32nd in rushing and 27th against the rush.
So remember last year, everyone loved Minnesota pre-Brett Favre because they could run and they could stop the run. You got San Diego can't run, and now they have their big D or big nose guards hurt and out. Yeah. So now they can't stop the run. But they're a 4.5-point favorite. I mean, other than just saying it's a bad line, and again, you don't always play every bad line, and that's the thing you guys got to remember. When we give an official pick, that means we like it. We're betting this game. Sometimes there may be 8 factors on one side that's positive for Denver, 2 that's positive for San Diego, but we might pass the game, or we might bet San Diego, or we might bet the total. So it's really about breaking down the individual factors and then deciding how they fit together. But can you make the case that San Diego is a better team?
It's hard on paper to do that, but in handicapping, there's a term that old school handicappers use, intangibles. There's intangibles that you have to consider all the circumstances that are out of the ordinary. And we're talking about them. Denver's coming off the most
back-to-back, New England and Dallas.
They're 5-0 ATS.
They're 5-0 ATS.
So you're paying a premium usually.
Oh, yeah,
and you're not. And you're not.
But you're not here. But remember, you've got a young coach. We have never seen him in this position. Last Sunday was his Super Bowl almost. I mean, short of actually going to the Super Bowl, that was the biggest win of his coaching career.
Beating his protege.
How is he going to keep himself
when
focused?
I saw that after that game, the energy, I just think they're so young and they're so excited, they're going to be focused for any game.
The thing, too, with San Diego is a lot of people haven't given up on them yet because this is nothing new for them to be.
Even that
October 1-3 or 2-2. It's like that every year.
I mean, getting beat by Baltimore is even looking worse.
Yeah. I agree with you. I'm worried. I had San Diego was my AFC team to get to the Super Bowl. And
I had them for over the 10.5 wins.
I'll be the first to admit it. I was wrong. It looks like on this team.
I think one takeaway you can have out there is when you have a team, and Marco makes the great point, is there are a lot. The odds makers are quicker to say that a team doing well is actually a good team. So they're able to say, hey, Cincinnati's better than we thought, or Denver's better than we thought. But they're very slow to say the team they thought was good isn't good.
You're right.
With Tennessee, finally this week, they're admitting that this isn't a good team.
You're right.
This San Diego team, at what point, what have we seen? Even if they win this week, what have we seen? If you didn't know, if there was no logo on their helmets, and you just watched this team this year, would you be thinking San Diego is even close to Denver?
No. Look at defensively, 26th in yardage allowed. I mean, come on.
The one thing they're saying, and we talked about it earlier when we were talking Baltimore and Cincinnati, last week that Cincinnati beat Baltimore and they shouldn't have, in your opinion. When you get into division play, sometimes the stats don't, you said about 2.7 yards a carry, San Diego. When they get into division play, their stats become better because they know their opponents better. They play them twice a year every year. They know
you got a new coach here. So.
You got it. It's a good point you have a new coach. But generally speaking, remember for general handicapping purposes that teams that might be under teams for 3 weeks in a row, but then they play a division rival, all of a sudden it's a big over because they know how to attack their weaknesses. They know each other so well. So I expect San Diego to play much better this week.
Now, last point is 5-0 on the year for Denver. That's just not something on paper. That means people that have bet them have cashed week after week after week. And don't forget, that keeps people excited. You would think that means Denver would be getting an adjustment in the line. Yeah. This might be the last week you get Denver at a discount. So I have a lean towards Denver, but again, it's far off and I haven't made a final decision on this game. All right, great show this week, guys. This is the 5th and final segment. We're going to be back next week. Same thing, 5 different games we'll be breaking down. Remember, you can watch all of our videos at pregame.tv, or you can download and listen. Just go to iTunes and search for pregame.com.